Now's the time to travel and be with the people you care about the most. And at Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express, we're helping you be there for less. Save at least 25% at thousands of hotels worldwide if you book by September 24th. You won't want this moment to pass you by. So book today at holidayinn.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Prepare for glory!
I wanna know if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready?
I came out the womb, I was ready.
And he's hit the end zone for an unbelievable touchdown.
I would be honored if you played football for this team.
Throw it up above his head. They can't jump with me. Golly. Oh, they tackle him at the 40-yard line. Who can make a play? I can. Who can make a play? I can.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast, proud members of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. You can find them at FTFPodNet on Twitter. You can find me at SportsFanaticMB on Twitter. You can find Mr. Dennis Bennett, my illustrious co-host, at Culture_Coach on Twitter. I don't know why I was going to say Twitter at the end of Culture_Coach. And, of course, you can find the other host joining me today, Mr. Matthew Fox, at Nighthawk7734 on Twitter. Not only are we proud members of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network, but there's also a ton of other great shows on there. You can find Jim Day of FF Champs, Adam Rodas and Dr. Roto of Sirius XM, Bob Lung of the award-winning Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, the IDP Tipsters, Dwayne McFarland, Blake Sullivan, and many, many other great podcasts, all on this network. You can find all of these podcasts on FullTimeFantasy.com. Great content, a ton of great fantasy advice, all within your reach, and just a click of a button. So definitely check that out. For today's podcast, we are going to be going over all of the breaking news. Yes, there was obviously a huge, really disappointing story. And when I say disappointing, just in the fact that we lost I shouldn't say lost because it makes it sound like he died, but a player retired way too young, in my opinion. I would have loved to watch him for the next decade. I feel like we were robbed of that a little bit, but I do understand his decision and fully support it, so we will definitely get in that. We have other breaking news. And then we are going to be talking about Vegas.
Whoa! Road trip! Vegas! Vegas, baby! Vegas! Get or not!
That's right, Vegas, baby. In just a little over a week and a half, me and Dennis will be in Las Vegas for the FFWC, the Fantasy Football World Championships. We cannot wait. Dennis will be there Thursday for the NFL kickoff party, and we will do our best to get him showing you guys all kinds of stuff going on there. There will be a ton of wonderful draft content going on there. On top of that, I will be there that Friday and Saturday, the 6th and the 7th at the Palms Resort, again in Las Vegas. We will be recording live from Radio Row, doing all kinds of stuff. We will be participating in these Fantasy Football World Championship drafts with some of the best in the industry. It is going to be a ton of fun. Again, in the old Playboy Suite there at the Palms. Cannot wait. We will be doing a ton of stuff. We'll be broadcasting live during some of the drafts. I will do some Twitter live stuff as well, but it is going to be just a blast. We cannot wait to get there and get this started. It's going to be really cool for the first really big industry thing that I will be a part of, since I was not able to make it up to the Midwest Expo this year. Other than that, that's really all we'll be talking about today. A bunch of over-unders, player props, and things of that like to kind of get us in the mood and get us ready for the Las Vegas trip. We will then probably discuss some of the upcoming stuff and the episodes. Obviously, there was a college football game that happened this past weekend. In week 0, as they are calling it, between Miami and Florida. Since I am the biggest college football fan of the group, I'll talk about that really quick before we bring the Dennis and Matt on. We do have a special guest joining us as well. For week 0 of the college football playoffs, it was not a great game in that Miami and Florida game, or really Arizona and Hawaii, but it was great to see football back. Obviously, Miami struggled there. Looked like they were going to have a chance to possibly win that game. A couple of Pass interference calls right there at the end helped get them in range, but then kept getting set back because of that offensive line. Florida's defensive line was just destroying, I cannot remember his name at the moment, but the true freshman that Miami had at left tackle. Florida, they think they have national championship hopes. I'm not necessarily that sure they can make it, especially having Georgia on their side of the SEC. But they're definitely looking like they have a chance to at least go 5-0 before they meet Georgia later on in the year. Arizona, Hawaii, another game that was kind of marred with turnovers and penalties. Not a great game either there, and neither one of those teams with national championship inspiration or hope really for either one of those teams. However, college football really kicks off this Thursday with a bunch of games, keyed really with the Clemson matchup there on Thursday night, I believe on ESPN, and then obviously Friday, Saturday kicks off a ton of college games. This really begins week one with the best matchup of the weekend on Saturday night in primetime between the Oregon Ducks and the Auburn Tigers. Going to be awesome. Auburn named their freshman, I can't remember his last name, Bo. He will be starting for the Auburn Tigers against the much maligned but much loved, at least on this podcast by myself, in Justin Herbert, the quarterback of the Ducks. I cannot wait to watch that game. But we're going to save that talk for a little bit later in the week, as I'm hoping to have a special guest jump on and join me for a college preview episode that will be dropping on either Thursday or Friday this week, preferably Thursday. But if that doesn't happen, it will definitely drop on Friday. And if he is not able to join me, I will be doing it solo, much like I did with the first year of this podcast. I'll jump on and record about an hour's worth of college football talk for you guys to get you guys ready for the college football season. A bunch of the prospects to watch out for in Dynasty and Devy Leagues and how I think the college football season is going to shape up. So with all that being said, it looks like my co-hosts are ready to rock and roll. So let's go ahead and get Dennis and Matt in here, and then we will also introduce our special guest joining us today. Hello! And as always, we have Mr. Dennis Bennett with us. Dennis, how you doing? How was your weekend?
Man, my weekend just seemed to fly by. Went out to the lake. It was choppy, but all I can think about is next Thursday. NFL starts, and I'm going to be out in Las Vegas for the Fantasy Football World Championship. So
yeah,
I kind of got tunnel vision right now. I'm trying to get through the rest of my drafts to get to that draft out in Vegas.
I hear you. I was just talking about that in the episode, or in the intro to the episode, talking about how we're going to focus very much on Vegas today for our trip out there. It is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this Saturday first, because obviously it being the opening of, I shouldn't say real college football. We did see college football games last weekend, but kind of the real start of college football Saturday, and then I wanted to skip forward to next Friday. So I am definitely looking forward to that as well. As we have had on here the past couple episodes, we have Mr. Matthew Fox with us as well. Mr. Fox, how are you doing, and how was your weekend?
I'm doing good.
What does the Fox say?
Just going through stuff, getting ready for drafts. Looking forward to next weekend when we finally know who is actually going to be on all of our teams.
Yes, and we actually have the FLA draft going on this coming Monday, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Next Monday.
I'm in too many leagues, so I had to make sure that I could mark that down on my calendar because I just joined my 35th league earlier today. So
I saw that, you psycho.
I'm just trying to keep up with everything. Well, I like those slow drafts. It's not as hard to keep up with those as necessarily the live ones. But we also, as I mentioned in the intro, have another co-host joining us today, Mr. John Hamelers. You can find him at iHeartCaravans on Twitter. He's another writer for the FLA group. John, how are you doing today, and how was your weekend?
I'm doing good. Over the weekend, I got to auctioneer for one of my buddies' auction drafts. They've been playing for, and I might get this wrong, but 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've auctioneered for him 3 or 4 times over the past 5 or 6 years. Great time. And I think that I had like 7 drafts this weekend of my own, so it was busy.
Sounds like it. Anybody else have a bunch of drafts coming up? I know I have, not counting the FLA one on Monday, I have 4 more. I have 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. Dennis, Matt, you guys have any other drafts going on this weekend?
I have one next weekend. This coming weekend, I've got the Giving League draft that the third Mike put together. It's to help raise awareness and combat domestic violence. I'm pretty stoked about that.
Very nice.
I have my work one on Thursday. We're actually doing it during our staff lunch period, and then I have a couple on Monday, and I'll be done.
All right. Well, that should be a lot of fun, I would think. Everybody loves their live drafts, and we will definitely delve into those a little bit on Monday, as I love hearing about people's drafted teams, and we can critique each other's teams on Monday. Let's now jump into the breaking news and talk about some of the stuff that happened over the weekend.
I got a piece of breaking news right now. Matt, you're on the clock.
Oh, am I still? I haven't made that pick yet? Okay. I'll do that in just a minute. I hate to keep upsetting our listeners here who want to
kill me. I'm funny.
Who want to tag people like 80 times because they've been on the clock for 5 minutes. So I'll get there. I promise, guys. Before this episode ends, or maybe by the time you guys listen to it later tonight, I'll have made my pick. I promise.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Alright, so for the first bit of news we have here, Doug Martin was placed on the IR for the Raiders. I thought that he had been released. I believe that was some of the reports that came out earlier. I was corrected by my wonderful co-host here. He has just landed on the IR. I would assume that means he might eventually come back to the Raiders. I think this is kind of a non-story really for fantasy players, unless you guys have rostered Doug Martin. Do any of you have thoughts on Doug Martin and his IR stint right now with the Raiders, if you think he has any fantasy value whatsoever in 2019?
I had Doug Martin. I had Doug Martin in no less than 17 leagues. And when the news came out that he got released, I released him, and now I feel bad about it. He's got a rookie running back in front of him, and while he's a Peyton Barber type, and you're not going to get a lot if you went all in with Jacobs, you might need that 70 yards a game.
I believe, because they've talked about it a little bit here in Denver with players like Theo Riddick and Drew Lock, if you want to be on IR designated to return, you have to first make the 53-man roster and then get put on IR designated to return, and you can only do that for a couple players. So him being placed on IR at this point, I believe, means his season is over. For me, the first thing it made me think was Jalen Richard has been practically free in drafts I've done. And he actually had a sneaky decent season as a pass catcher last year. Josh Jacobs, obviously a very talented back, but has never really carried a huge load even for his college team. So I'm kind of interested in Richard as possibly a low-end flex value.
Yeah, that's actually a very good call there. Hey, Richard might be my next pick in the listener league. We'll see what happens. Let's see here. The next up, Lamar Miller unfortunately tore his ACL. A pretty brutal hit, getting hit right in the knee. You could see almost immediately that was probably going to be a very serious injury. He went down, just let go of the ball in pain, and laid on the ground. Miller out for the rest of the year. The question I want to ask you guys, me obviously being a huge Browns fan, I've seen Duke Johnson over the past couple years, and as much as I love Duke, I'm not necessarily sure that he can be a full 3-down back. He is probably their best option right now for them until they pick up somebody. There were obviously the rumors floated out there that they had signed Jay Ajayi. That has not technically happened yet. So right now it is just Duke. We'll go Dennis, Matt, John. Do you guys think, or does this improve Duke Johnson's fantasy value at all in 2019?
Well, I think he gets just a little uptick, but I do think they will add somebody to come in there and be the pounder. Duke hasn't shown that he can carry the load like that. And so, Carlos Hyde is running with the twos now. He's not even getting any first-team reps. There's guys like Josh Adams up in Philadelphia that could be on the outs. So there's Jay Ajayi is still out there, according to Al Michaels. With guys like that, as cuts get made over the course of the next week or so, and with veterans also, I could see Duke carrying the load week one. after week 1, you can sign a veteran and not be on the hook for his entire salary for the whole season. If you cut him, you stop paying him. If you sign the veteran before week 1 and you cut him in week 5, you still owe him all the money for that year. So there'll be a lot of guys, I think, that end up getting signed after the first week of the season.
I'm glad to see that Dennis is still out there shilling for his boy Carlos Hyde. Somebody has to.
Got to stay on brand.
Got
to stay on brand.
I think Duke, when he made the move to the Texans, people got excited that he was back to probably being solid flex value. He may even bounce up into RB2 territory, but I'm with Dennis. I think it's going to be some kind of a committee, and the person that he's going to end up sharing the backfield with isn't on their roster yet. Although this is the team that seemed to have an immense amount of faith in Alfred Blue for a really long time, so you never know.
So don't underrate Alfred Blue.
So what I'm seeing there is, while Duke Johnson's not going to take over exactly Lamar Miller's role, they do have Karan Higdon as well, the rookie out of Michigan. They might bring somebody in because neither of those guys are very big. Duke's like 5'9", Higdon's like 5'10". They're both right around 200 pounds. But with the way that the offensive line is going, they need some big blocking back right now. The offense, Duke's good enough at the offense. Higdon, he was good at the offense last year. So I could see him picking up another blocker.
Yeah, I think for me, the one thing, if they end up giving the ball to Duke more in the running game, I think it could increase his fantasy value some. The one thing I'll say is, last year, Deshaun Watson checked down to the running backs. I believe it was a total of 60 times over the entire season. That is not a lot. And that's kind of where Duke's game is the best. At least that's what we saw the best, or where we saw the best out of him in Cleveland, is in that receiving game. If he's not going to get much work in the receiving game, they're going to have to lean on him in the run game to get the value back for him, especially if you're paying up for him. I saw a couple people taking him really early now, especially when the Lamar Miller news came out. Someone did it in our listener league draft. Almost immediately after Lamar Miller news came out, he drafted Duke Johnson, like 12 minutes later, something like that. So, and he took him in like the 8th round, which I think is a little bit high for Duke. So I'll definitely be interested to see where his ADP goes to over this next weekend, since this is really the weekend where a lot of people are going to be drafting and seeing how much they believe Duke Johnson can be the guy in Houston. The next little bit of news we had is Jay Gruden came out in Washington and stated that Case Keenum is going to be the starter coming week 1. Not surprised by this news necessarily. I do think that Dwayne Haskins looked really good in week 2 and week 3, looked horrible in week 1. Jay Gruden's trying to keep his job. We will have a player prop, or not a player prop, but a coach prop on him later in this episode. And I think this leans right into why he named Case Keenum the starter. He wants to keep his job. He wants to be the head coach of the Washington Redskins. And right now, Case Keenum gives him the best shot to win. Does anyone have any thoughts on Case Keenum being the guy here in Washington? Do you think that increases any of the wide receiver stock?
Well, yeah. I think Keenum was always going to be the starter at the beginning of the season. 5 of their first 6 games are against strong defenses, and I think Haskins needs a little more time. He needs to see those defenses in action, and doing that from the bench until Keenum gets hurt is going to be good for Haskins. That's just my 2 cents, but I don't think Haskins needed to come out and just completely blow everybody away to start week 1.
For me, no Trent Williams. I think it's going to be kind of a down, lost year. I know Redskins fans don't really want to hear that, but they can probably tell. A lot of great talent there on offense, a lot of question marks about what they're going to be able to do. Even Darius Geist, to some extent, is still a question mark because he hasn't really played that much, and he's been injured off and on. So I think the best case for Dwayne Haskins is for Case Keenum to go out there and lead them to like a 2-7 record, and then he can come in when there's absolutely no pressure, and you can see what he can do down the back half of the season, where I actually think they're scheduled a little easier on the back half. So I think that's makes total sense if you were looking long term. I don't know how great that's going to be for Jay Gruden, though.
Yeah, I think that Haskins is the best quarterback on the roster, but as you said, they're trying to get what they can out of Case Keenum, try and keep a job. Haskins also is a pocket passer. I got to see a lot of them last year. I live in Columbus, Ohio. Pocket passers as rookies typically don't light the world on fire. So if they hold him out, get him the experience, seeing the defenses from the field level, like you said, probably 9-10 games in, he'll get some on-field action.
Well, I thought Screaming A said that Haskins was a great running quarterback.
He did say that, and I'm not sure that he was, wrong in that assessment. Maybe. I don't know much about Dwayne Haskins. Real quick, since we're doing an over-under episode, I'm going to hit you guys with an over-under really quick. Over-under on 8.5. Well, no, because over-under 9.5 games. Do you guys think Dwayne Haskins starts this season?
Under for me.
Under.
I'm going over. I think Haskins. Let's see. When is their bye?
I think their bye is actually late this year. I could be wrong on that. Let me see.
Looks like week 4, which is really early for Haskins to come out.
Oh, I'm showing week 10.
Oh, week 10. We have a little bit of controversy. Week 10. Okay.
It is definitely week 10.
My numbers say 2018. So last year, I will tell you that the Redskins had a week 4 bye.
Yes,
right
correct.
on.
So that would have been too early for Dwayne Haskins. I do agree with you, John. So we're solid on 2018. On 2019's year, since it is week 10, what are we thinking?
I still think that Haskins takes over about week 6 or 7.
Okay.
So I'm going to take the over on the 9.
I like it. I like it, Dennis. I like it. Just because that's my boy. My Buckeye buddy. All right. Anyways, Cam Newton. Looks like he's progressing and should be fine for week 1. Not really a lot of analysis that needs to go along with this pick necessarily. I just think that is good for obviously their weapons and DJ Moore, CMC, and Curtis Samuel. We've been talking them up on this podcast as one of the most explosive offensive trios in the game right now. So hopefully Cam Newton's able to come back and play 100% healthy, and that will be good for him and those weapons, as we're all hoping all those guys are going to ball out this season. I'm going to go ahead and kill off the breaking news music here because we want to get into some serious discussions here. I am going to let you guys go first on this Andrew Luck thing because I kind of wore myself out a little bit on Twitter. Anybody who follows me saw I was getting into it with quite a lot of people Saturday night when this news broke. Andrew Luck at the ripe young age of 29 decided to step away from NFL football just due to injuries tolling up. He just felt like he did not love the game anymore and was tired of his body getting beaten up. I'll go ahead and Dennis, just your thoughts overall, whatever you have to say on Andrew Luck and him retiring just so young and us losing out on a chance to watch one of the best players in the game for the next couple, I'd say probably at least the next decade.
Well, Chris Borland came out after his rookie season or his second season, and looked like he was going to be a great linebacker in the league for a good time, for a good amount of time, and he hung him up. He just didn't want to take the chance. You see it more and more, and Borland didn't make $97 million, so I understand where he's coming from. As an old dude with aches and pains, I can only imagine being 29 and having to wake up and feeling like that. I give him great respect for, the things that he's accomplished in his career. I think that it was stupid the way a bunch of people treated him, but I don't think you can just say that's the Indianapolis fan base. Every fan base has a bunch of jackasses.
I agree.
If Russell Wilson retired today, you'd see the same thing in Seattle. And if Patrick Mahomes did it, you'd see it in Kansas City. That's just the way a certain segment of the population is. I'm not going to engage with people there. That says more about them than it does about Andrew Luck or it does about me. So I tend to choose not to engage with people like that. Let them go about, they show themselves for who they are when they start, acting like the former college basketball player turned commentator who shall not be named. He doesn't deserve to be named. And so when people want to act, that says who they are at their core. I'm not going to engage there. I have a lot of respect for Andrew Luck, and let him go live his life. I don't think he's going to go away. He's going to continue to be involved in different things, whether they're humanitarian causes, business causes. He's going to go out there and do things. So it isn't like he's going to disappear. He's probably going to go out and make a difference in the world somewhere.
Yeah, I think for me, when I heard the news on Saturday night, I was, kind of halfway through the first quarter of Denver's game, and they kind of broke in and said something. I hadn't been looking at my phone. It was hard to believe. I'm going to miss watching him play. His press conference was very classy, very gracious, and I hope this makes him happy, and that this gives him a sense of peace. You could tell how much he kind of has been wrestling with this and with the idea of not being healthy. And I mean, he was a very talented guy who didn't get the protection he deserved. I was watching the game when he was playing the Broncos 2 or 3 years ago, where they just blew right through the line and lacerated his kidney, and his coach just left him out there playing. I mean, anyone who says that he wasn't tough did not watch him play, and did not watch him play through some of the things he played through. I also thought it was a really classy move by the Colts to go ahead and decline to collect the bonus money that he would have had to pay back for having left early. That's not something you always see from these NFL teams when guys have to walk away or feel like they have to walk away for what's best for them. So I thought that was kind of a nice moment. It was a tough moment, seeing the fans and their reaction in the moment, but I do kind of feel for them a little bit too. I don't know about you guys, but prior to this retirement, the Colts were a team that I was really high on coming into this year. I think what we saw them be able to do with a finally healthy Andrew Luck and Frank Reich last year was pretty incredible. They were pretty close to being able to go to the AFC Championship game. They were a team that I was strongly considering as a Super Bowl pick. So it's kind of devastating from a fandom sense of what are we going to see watching the games. But, he's got to do what's best for him. And I think this was best for him. And I am a little bit like both of you guys. I get a little annoyed at people just deriding him because he ruined their fantasy season. This is much bigger than fantasy, fake football. I say that as somebody who has like 20 shares of Andrew Luck and was left scrambling. But I mean, that's life. He has to do what's best for him as Andrew Luck, a human being. And I think that's the important thing to remember here.
I'd have to agree with that. I mean, you see football players all the time that are 29 years old that are no longer in the league, and nobody remembers them. Andrew Luck caught hell because he was good at football and retired before people wanted him to. From a fantasy football perspective, I think it's absolutely fantastic. You had 20 shares of them. You have to scramble. That's what fantasy football is about. It's not just, plugging a lineup in and crossing your fingers. So just all of the things that have happened with both of the people going out. I mean, it's fantastic. And I had 0 shares of Andrew Luck, so it's even better for me. Who's going to replace him? He had the best neckbeard in the NFL.
It's really a lot of pressure on Brissett. He not only has to replace him on the field, but you got to get that facial hair thing going.
Yeah, well, Brissett's one of those Southern boys, and I think he'll be up to that task. I don't think we should sell Brissett short. This may be actually just the kind of, I guess, thing that's going to knock the Colts under the radar that they need. I'm still big on Marlon Mack. I think he's going to have a good year. They've still got one of the best offensive lines in the league. Brissett's in his second year in Reich's system. T.Y. Hilton is still good. Eric Ebron is still manageable. Jack Doyle is still there. Devin Funchess is Devin Funchess. And they still have Paris Hilton. Man, I always call him Paris Hilton.
You really love
They
Paris
still
Hilton,
have
buddy.
Paris Campbell. You know? I guess it's a Freudian slip.
Yeah.
So
Every time you talk about him.
I know. I love those cheeseburgers.
I know. I'm sure you do.
So, you know, is Brissett going to be a top 5 quarterback? No, but can he finish 5, 6, 7 spots better than QB 20 from, 2017? Certainly. I think he's set up to be ready for success in this system. He knows it. I think he's known for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks that he was going to start week 1. So he's been preparing just like that. So, and then I went out and picked up some Chad Kelly just in case.
Yeah.
That's desperation.
No, desperation. I traded, I had one share of luck and I had almost traded him about a week ago, but I didn't pull the trigger. The guy I felt was asking for too much. And so I didn't pull the trigger. So now I'm stuck and I have him. And another guy came at me, and this dude had Stafford, Wilson, Rodgers, and Matt Ryan. And so I ended up getting Wilson, a 3rd-round pick, and Brashad Perryman for Stephon Diggs and a 2020 first. I still have Keenan Allen, Lockett, and Allen Robinson, but, man, I didn't want to give up Diggs.
Well, let me tell you, at least you can feel a little bit better about being able to make a trade. I, during the offseason in a 2-quarterback league, traded Baker Mayfield for Andrew Luck straight up because I prefer Luck. So that worked out pretty well for me. And then in a 16-team dynasty league, actually one that John Hamelers runs, my 2 quarterbacks are Andrew Luck and Cam Newton. So I went from feeling pretty good to not looking forward to week 1 anymore.
Well, Cam Newton will be back, so, we talked about that. So, you got that going for you, at least.
We hope.
Yeah.
We hope.
Well, the one thing I'll say really quick before I give my 2 cents here on the whole Luck situation is that's the fantasy god smiting you for trading away the greatest football player in the world, Baker Mayfield. That this is exactly what happens when you trade Baker Mayfield. But anyways, I'm right there with what a lot of you guys have said there. I'm also with Dennis. I don't think we should cut Jacoby Brissett short. He did not look that bad that year that he got traded over from New England. I think it was like in week 1 or 2. Sat for a week and then literally played the entire season while Luck was out. He's got a much better team around him and a better coaching staff around him. I think Brissett's going to be fine. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. And in fact, something you mentioned, Dennis, I will bring up when we get to the team over-unders, how much Vegas is underselling, at least in my opinion, Jacoby Brissett, because their win totals with Andrew Luck was completely different than what they have now with Jacoby Brissett. On the whole Andrew Luck retiring thing, what I got upset about, and I agree with what Dennis said, I think it was Matt who said, I don't think, whichever one you said it, I don't know, I'm so confused now, but I don't think that's the entire Indianapolis fan base that feels the way that we saw those few booing Andrew Luck. It still sucks that happened. Everything that guy has done for that franchise led them through everything he did. Matt talking about the lacerated kidney. He had broken ribs, torn cartilage in his ribs, the shoulder injury. Yet he has taken them to the playoffs 4 times and got them 4 playoff wins. Did he get him to the Super Bowl? No. But there's a lot of teams that haven't even made the playoffs, and I think a lot of us would take that at this point with some of our franchises. So the fact that the last time he ever walked off the field in Indianapolis, he got booed by some fans who I would hope right now are waking up this morning or not this morning, but Sunday morning and kind of regretted their reaction to that. It did suck to see that. You could tell that truly did bother him at the press conference. I felt like he handled that very well as well. I heard, Matt was talking about how classy the Colts organization has been through this whole thing. I thought Andrew Luck handled that very well, especially with the fact that he was supposed to do that press conference Sunday when he was likely going to be more well prepared and ready to go. And instead, because Adam Schefter broke that news Saturday night, while he was still on the field. He eventually had to then just go do a press conference right then and there. I imagine that was not easy to do. A guy who's been in football his entire life. His father played in the NFL. You know, obviously he's done everything he could to get to the NFL, playing at Stanford. Obviously all the football you played before that. I imagine, as you guys were saying, this decision was not come too lightly. This probably was a very hard decision for him to make. So it does bother me, all of these people who are just, I mean, in all honesty, shitting on him for making this decision when they have no idea. Most of them not even being NFL players. It's analysts, and I hate to put it this way, a bunch of short, fat white people in the business, in the sports business. I
resemble that remark.
Well, you're not short. You're tall and fat. So both of you are taller and fat. So that was not aimed at either one of you. I'm more short and fat. But anyways, just all these analysts who have never played football, who think they know everything, taking shots at Andrew Luck, saying that he bailed on his team and gave up on them, quit on them. I really think that if they believed that, they would not have been putting out some of the stuff they were putting on Twitter. I know a lot of people were saying, well, they have to do that. No, they don't. They could literally just not put anything out on Twitter, and it would be fine. Nobody's going to just come out and say, hey, this guy's my best friend, like T.Y. Hilton did, or Eric Ebron saying that I can't wait to tell my kids I played with somebody like him. They're not going to come out there and say that just to say that. I understand that everything on the internet's not true, but I truly believe they're not going to take the time to go out of their way and put that out on Twitter to Andrew Luck if there wasn't some semblance of truth to that. So that's just kind of my thing on it. It really bothered me the way a lot of people were destroying that guy for what something I think it was Troy Aikman said on Twitter was this was his decision. His decision, nobody else's. Just because you're a fan of the team does not give you the right to think that you can make this decision for him. This is his body, his life. He wants to go somewhere else with it. If you were working your job right now and you decided, you know what? My job just paid me whatever amount of money that I can live comfortably. I don't want to do this anymore. Do you really think that you would like other people criticizing you because you just up and left your job? No. He did it because it was better for him mentally and physically, and it really drove me crazy that people really got that upset about him making his decision with his life. So that's that. I'm off my soapbox now. You step down, move past this. Matt, you have been bringing up a very interesting thing that you've noticed with the trend here the past couple of years in preseason that you wanted to get into. So tell us your thoughts on preseason football and where you think it's going now in the NFL.
Yeah, but real quick first, if somebody, the last thing on Andrew Luck, if somebody wants to see something interesting, pop on Twitter, look up Troy Aikman, and see the response he gave to Doug Gottlieb, who posted one of the worst comments about Luck. I'm not going to read it on the air, but the way he dunks on him, you'll be clapping.
I agree.
Basically, last Thursday we talked a lot about what we were looking forward to with preseason week 3 and stuff like that, and almost immediately after we finished recording, I pop on and I see Cam Newton gets knocked out. Flip over to the game they're playing in Canada between Green Bay and the Raiders, and they decide no one of any consequence is going to play, and they're going to play on an 80-yard field because the end zones are too trashed to risk anyone's safety. And you just saw a whole bunch of teams, the past 2 years, the Los Angeles Rams have not played anyone of consequence in preseason. This year, after sitting out all of 2018, we still have not seen Le'Veon Bell play as a Jet, and we won't until week 1. I think you're just seeing more and more of these teams. My team, Denver, they didn't play anyone of consequence in week 3. We basically saw a handful of snaps from Joe Flacco. I have no idea what our offense is going to look like. Some of our starting defenders never played and won't play until week 1. You just get the sense that there's a lot of fatigue with preseason. I feel like this year, more so even than in the last couple of years, it's hard to get a sense of players, what they're going to do in systems and on the team. From the preseason games, people seem to be protecting players more and more. And I think there's been a lot of talk that a big part of this new CBA, which they're already starting to talk about, is going to be fundamentally changing preseason. People talked about a little bit on some of the broadcasts that they're old enough to remember when preseason used to be 6 games, so it's not like this will be the first time they're going to change. I think within the next couple of years, you're either going to see it go down to 2 games or possibly 3 games. But it's just got to get shortened. We've had too many of these injuries. Teams are reticent to actually put their big players out for games that don't matter. And, you need some to try to evaluate those guys who are going to be, number 50, 51, 52, and 53 on your roster, the guys you want on the practice squad. But it doesn't have to be 4 or 5 full games exposing them to all these hits. So I just think that's where we're trending. And this preseason has probably been one of the toughest to watch in recent memory from that standpoint.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. There's obviously been a lot of that talk going on here, especially with the 18-game season stuff, that they might move to 2 games in the preseason. Dennis or John, do you guys have any thoughts on what we've seen out of the preseason this year?
Well, I think when you're investing $30, $40, $50 million in an asset, sorry if that seems cold to call the players an asset, but that's truly how they're seen. When you're investing that much money in them, you need to do what you can to protect them, and playing them in meaningless games, especially your highest paid players, doesn't make sense from a value perspective. So I understand it, and you need to make sure, if you want to develop depth for guys that aren't going to get as much playing time during the season, one of the best ways to do that is play those lesser known guys that need development during the preseason. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I think the preseason is just a tryout for the new guys on the team. It's getting the rookies some reps, and like Dennis said, just cleaning up 51, 52, and 53.
All right, well, with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into some over-unders and team totals and talk about what Vegas has projected for the 2019 season.
First and 10 at the Lions 29, and Prescott goes screen right. Elliott down the right side to the 25, to the 20, to the 10. Elliott to the pylon. Zeke Elliott, touchdown! 38 on the screen.
Second down and 10, takes the snap, gives it. Chubb runs, he's in it. 15, he's in it. 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Chubb. He's in the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown. Chubba Lubba Hub. 92 yards.
Left. Marshawn Lattimore, 12 yards from Adam. Case on a deep drop, steps up in the pocket. He'll fire to the right side. Caught by Diggs. Stay up. Oh my God! Oh my God! 30. No. 10. Touchdown! Are you kidding me? It's a Minneapolis miracle. Stephon Diggs and the Minnesota Vikings have walked up on the New Orleans Saints. It's a 61-yard Minneapolis miracle.
Alright, so we're going to make this fairly easy, not a whole lot of analysis needed for these. We're going to go through and do a little bit of over-unders. Now, not sure what yet, the 4 of us can discuss this at one point, but I'm going to keep track of what everybody says here, and there will be a winner at the end of the year. And whoever wins, hopefully me, will get to boast in front of all 3 of the other co-host here that we have on today. We'll have everybody on at the end of the season and figure out what's something the winner can get here. So take this as seriously as you want, I guess would be the way to put it. But we're going to start with every division. We'll go through and do what Vegas has projected. So this is all Las Vegas books. You could go to Vegas and bet on these numbers if you wanted to. I will give the team expected win totals. You'll give me over or under, and then we'll get into the player props, the most interesting ones from each of those divisions. We'll go through At the very end, we'll talk about a lot of just not regular, but interesting player props, such as most receiving touchdowns, most passing yards, first coach to be fired, coach of the year, comeback player of the year, so on and so forth. We'll go in the order we have been going throughout the entire episode. Dennis, Matt, John, and then I will give mine last. So let's start with the AFC East and the reigning Super Bowl champions. Vegas has the Patriots with 11 wins this season. Dennis, are you going over or under?
I'm going to go over. They're going to ride Sony Michel all the way to 13 wins.
I'm going to go a slight over 12-4.
All right.
Mind you, I'm just pulling that out my ass. So
That's all right. I like it. It means I have a better chance of winning, I hope. John?
Is there a way that you could take a push?
No. I
really like that 11. I'll say over with the 12-4 because betting against the Patriots is a bad bet.
Well, I'm going under. I'm going to bet against the Patriots. I think that they're going to get 10 wins this year, so I'm going to go ahead and take the under. The Jets are projected with 7 wins this year. Over or under, Dennis?
the Jets are going to finish 8-8.
All right.
I'm going over 9-7.
Ooh, okay. John?
I'm going to go over 8-8.
I'm going over as well. So, with all of us going over right around 8-8, or I actually think the Jets are going to get 9 wins, do we all think they will make it in the playoffs as a wild card? Yes or no?
I don't. I mean, at 9-7 they could, but I don't know. We did this episode a couple 3 months ago.
Yes.
I don't remember what I said then.
You didn't have the Jets in the playoffs.
You want me to contradict myself?
Exactly, yes. I can't be the only stupid one on this podcast. I need you to make some mistakes here, Dennis, besides Paris Hilton.
I'm going to say they don't make the playoffs either. I think they'll be close, but just out.
All right. John?
I don't think they're making the playoffs.
No.
There's too many better teams out there.
Gotcha. I'm going to be contrarian and say yes, just for the hell of it. All right, the Bills at 6.5 wins, over or under?
Boy, that defense is starting to come together. I like what McDermott's doing up there. I can see them. I'm going to give them just squeaking over at 7-9. I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to go under.
Well, you've got to balance out those extra Patriots and Jets wins. I'm going under for the Bills.
All right.
They can get those from the other divisions.
I am actually going to go over as well. I really like the Bills this year. I think they're going to have a phenomenal season. The Dolphins, last but not least, and the worst over-under in the entire NFL this year at 4.5 games.
Most certainly last. I'm going under.
Going under as well.
I'm going to go under as well.
And as will I, so that sucks for the Dolphins fans. I'm sorry. Barker, do you listen to this episode? I'm sorry, buddy. I know you are a big Dolphins fan. All right, so some of the player props for the AFC East. Josh Allen will have over or under 3,200 passing yards.
Boy, what's that? That's 160 yards a game?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over.
All right.
I'm going to go under. I'm not convinced he plays the whole season.
John?
Oh, just thinking about it. It's 200 yards a game, and it's just passing. I'll take the under.
Oh, at 200, I'm going to switch to the under at 200.
Oh, why you got to make this hard for me? Now I got to go back in and retype it. All right. Well, I'm taking the over. I feel like I'm being very contrarian here in the AFC East. Sam Darnold over and under on passing yards 3,650.
Boy, I'm going to take the under. I think he's going to be close, but I think it'll be under.
All right.
I'm going over. Jets, Jets.
I'm going to go ahead and go over. I think that he's going to have at least 20% of that number just to Le'Veon Bell.
All right, and I'm going over as well. Old Teflon Tommy, Tom Brady, over under 4,150 passing yards.
I'm going to give him the over. I think he's going to get 4-1-5-1. But, it's Sony Michel season.
I'm going to go under. I'll say he's just slightly around 4,000.
I think the same thing. He's going to finish up with about 4,000 because they just drafted Damian Harris. They still have James White. They still have Sony. Too much.
And I'm right there with both of you. I think it's going to be under. I think they are going to be rush heavy this year. Last but not least for the player props in the AFC East, Le'Veon Bell, over or under 1,125 rushing yards.
I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to take the over, say a little over 1,200.
So this is the one that got me stuck looking at the prep sheet. I think that he finishes under 1,125 rushing, but right around 1,800 on the ground. Total yards from scrimmage.
All right, and I'm going to take the under as well. He is very rarely, surprisingly, if you go back and look at his career, gone over 1,000 yards rushing. Does get a crap ton of receiving yards as well, which is what makes him as good as he is. Moving on to the AFC West, the Chiefs with a win total of 10.5 games. Over or under, Dennis?
Oh, let's see who the heck else is out there. There's Kansas City. There's...
Well, the Chiefs are Kansas City, so you've got the Chargers.
the Raiders, the Chargers.
Broncos.
And Broncos.
Yes.
10 wins?
10.5, yes.
I'm going to go over.
All right. Matt?
I'm going to go under. They come back to earth a little bit, 9-7.
I like it. John?
I think that Patrick Mahomes becomes a good instead of amazing quarterback, and I take the under.
As much as I want to go under, I'm going to take the over. I gotta think they at least get to 11 wins. I do agree that I think they're going to take a step back, but I can't see them not getting at least 11 wins. The Chargers at 9.5. Dennis?
Under.
Oh, okay. I did not expect that. Matt?
I love Phillip Rivers. I love the Chargers, but I think as capable as the non-Melvin Gordon backs are going to be, they're still not Melvin Gordon. And I just feel like Rivers I don't think he's not aging like Brady. He's not aging like Manning either, but he's somewhere in the middle. And so I feel like that team it's going to be kind of a little above 8-8.
I'm going over.
Oh, sorry.
Over?
Yeah,
all right.
Over. I think they win the West.
John?
I think they win the AFC. Put me down, highlight, underline, bold. You got a 12-4 Chargers team there.
Yeah, I am going to go over as well. I wanted to go under because I actually think, not just to placate to one of my co-hosts here, Mr. Matthew Fox, I do think the Broncos are actually going to have a fairly good year here as well, but I love this Chargers team. That defense is just stacked. I don't care about Melvin Gordon. They don't need him. He cannot come back as far as I'm concerned. Moving on to the Denver Broncos, they have a win total of 7. Over or under, Dennis?
I'm going to go under. I think it's a push, but I'm going to go under.
Matt?
I'm going to go over. 8-8 or 9-7.
I like it. John?
Under.
Matt, I got you. We're going over, baby. I like it. I like the Broncos this year. I believe in Joe Flacco somewhat. I really more believe in my guy, Philip Lindsay. Can't let him down. I know he listens. He's a friend of the podcast. Dear friend of mine. He listens. Love you, Philip. Thanks for making me look good last year. Oakland Raiders, over under 6.5. Dennis.
Under.
I'm going to say just slight under, 6-10.
I think the Raiders are going to be in the battle for the first pick, so I'm going under as well.
I am taking the under as well for the Raiders. So, the player props. Derek Carr, over-under passing yards, 4,100.
I think it's going to be over. I think that defense isn't going to be good. They're going to have to throw.
Matt?
I'm going to take a slight under.
Okay.
I think that Carr is a big bag of garbage, and so I'm going to take the under. I think that they're going to have a new quarterback before the year's over.
He's not that big.
You're right.
I am going to take the over, something I've been saying consistently for a while now. I think Derek Carr is going to return closer to that MVP form we saw a few years ago before he broke his leg. I think Carr is in for a huge year this year. I'm going to take the over. Joe Flacco, passing yards, 3,250, over or under, Dennis?
Oh, Flacco, 3,250. I am going to go over.
Okay.
I don't see any. I honestly, I don't see any other quarterback seeing the field there.
Matt?
I'm going to go over as well.
So, in the past 2 years, Flacco has hit 24-65 and 31-41 in yards. So, is he going to beat both of those? I don't think so. I think he's going to be well under that and replaced pretty quickly.
All right. I'm going to go over. I kind of agree with Dennis here. I don't know who would replace him, especially with Locke being hurt and definitely not being ready for the field. I also think that he's got two really good weapons in Cortland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton, and add in Emmanuel Sanders bouncing back this year. I like the team he's got around him. I'm going to take the over. This will be the interesting one. Patrick Mahomes, over under 4,650 passing yards.
Under.
Okay.
Just by a smidge. I've been saying all along, I think he's going to drop, roughly 15 to 20% of his totals last year. And, he's still going to be pretty close to the QB1. He's been my QB2 all off season, but with my QB1 retiring Saturday, I'm going to put Mahomes back up at QB1.
I'm going to say slightly under as well.
All right. John?
I'm going to go under as well.
As will I. Antonio Brown, over-under on receiving yards, 1,250.
I think he's gonna go over.
Matt?
I'm going to go under.
I think that Antonio is going to be a bust his first year with the Raiders, so definitely under.
All right, I am going to go over really quick. Not on the list, so I won't hold you guys accountable for this. But obviously, Antonio Brown, I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, is the only player to go over 100 catches 6 straight years in a row. Does he make it 7 this year, Dennis?
If he's going to get 1,250 yards, I think we'll give it to him.
I'm going to say no.
And I'm going to say way no. Lots of no.
I think he makes it. I'm a believer in Antonio Brown this year, as much as it hurts to admit that. Keenan Allen, over under receiving yards, 1,250 as well.
I think Keenan's going to get the under there.
I know, big Mike Williams fan right there.
Yeah, love that guy.
Matt?
I'm going to say under as well.
I'm going to go with under as well.
All right, I'm going to take the over. Josh Jacobs, rushing yards, 1,050.
Under.
I'm going to take the under as well.
That is Doug Martin's team. I'm taking the under.
I am taking the under as well. Got to stick to, as Dennis continues to stick to his guns for Carlos Hyde. I will continue to stick to my guns that Josh Jacobs is hashtag not that good. The AFC North, and I'm just going to warn two of you, since I already know where Dennis is likely going to go with this. If you do not answer this question correctly, you will very quickly be disconnected from this phone call. The AFC North and the Cleveland Browns, 9.5 wins in 2019. Over or under, Dennis?
Boy.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Dennis. You got a good thing going here, buddy.
I know. It's not because I want to. No, I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna hit the over. I think it's gonna be a very competitive division.
Matt.
Slight over 10-6.
John, I already know where you're going because you hate the Cleveland Browns, but go ahead and say it.
No, I honestly, I think that they're going to win the division, but a 9-5-1 record sounds real good.
All right.
But I'll take the over.
Oh, okay. I already had you marked as under. I'm taking a massive over. I think that the Cleveland Browns go 15-1 this year. I'm marking it right now at 51 seconds and 51 minutes, 35 seconds on 8:26. Matt Bruening called the Browns record, 15-1. Just kidding. No, I do think that they win at least 10 games this year, though. The Pittsburgh Steelers, 9 wins in 2019.
I'm going to take the over there, too.
All right.
I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to take the under. I think they're going to go like 5-11, 6-10.
Oh, okay. That is very contrarian. I have not heard that at all. I am taking the over as well. I do think that the Browns and Steelers are going to be the class of this division. The Baltimore Ravens at 8.5 games. Dennis, over, under?
Under.
Matt?
I'm going to take the over.
And I'm going to go ahead and take the under on that one as well. I think it's going to be 8-8.
I really want to actually take the over here because I do think that the Ravens have actually looked fairly decent in preseason, and so has Lamar Jackson. I just can't imagine 3 teams in the AFC North all finish with 9 to 10 wins, so I'm going to take the under, but I would not be... That's one that I'm a little worried about. I probably should have gone under on Steelers. The Cincinnati Bengals, 6 wins this year. Over or under?
Well, I think that's going to be a push. So if I have to pick one, I think I'll go with the under. They've got their offensive line's a hot mess.
I'm going way under.
If you read my recent Bengals preview, you see that I have them in a battle for the number 1 draft pick. So I think that they win, 2 or 3 games this year.
All right. And I'm going under as well. So the player props for the AFC North, starting out with Mr. Baker Mayfield, over under on passing yards, 4,325.
I'm going to take the under.
Oof. I'm going to take the over.
I'll take the over as well.
I'm going to take the over just because it's my guy. And in case he ever listens to this, he knows that I still love him. But I would not be surprised if it goes under. Baker does have the propensity to throw those little things we call interceptions. So I would not be surprised if it's just under the 43-25. Big Ben.
Nick Chubb could lead the league in rushing, too.
Dude, he's looked so good this year and 2 in the preseason games. Let's not get – it's not a Browns podcast. We're going to move on. Just don't get me started, Dennis, because I'm all about him right now. Big Ben, over under on passing yards, 4,475.
Man, that's a pretty big number. I certainly don't think that he's going to throw the ball almost 700 times again this year. So James Conner, man, has looked great in the offseason. He looks quick. I think he's gonna 44-70. I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to take the under as well.
I'm going to take the way under. I think that he's going to get knocked out right around 3,000.
Oh, so that's why you're very big on the Steelers being crappy this year, I take it.
I don't think Juju is Antonio Brown. I'm low on Juju. We'll get there, though.
Okay. Very, very interesting take. Lamar Jackson, over-under passing yards, 3,000.
For the year or
Yes.
for the career?
For the year. Hey, that's only 187 a game there, buddy. That's not impossible. That's not impossible, all right?
Oh, man. I'm going to take the under.
Ooh, okay, all right. Matt.
I'm taking under as well.
I'm going over. I think that with all those weapons that he has, they're going to break some tackles. You know, he's going to throw a lot of bubble screens and to the running back, and they're going to make things happen.
I am, after all that being said, going to go a slight under because I think they're going to be extremely run-heavy, and that is going to limit some of what Lamar Jackson does in the air. Looking at some, I'm going to do, rushing ones right now. So, Joe Mixon, over under rushing yards, 1,180.
Man, I want this to be the over so bad, but I think the struggles with the offensive line are going to push that to the under. I think he's going to have a nice yards from scrimmage number because he does catch a lot of passes, but I'm going to take the under on the rushing.
All right.
I'm going under, and I have no faith in the Bengals.
I'm going to take the over, and it's because I have like 35 shares of Mixon right now.
I'm going to take the over as well. I really believe in Mixon this year. I'm really hoping that he is going to have a breakout year, something me and Dennis talked about a lot, obviously, before all the injuries they've had to the offensive line, so that could hurt them some, but I think he's really, outside of Tyler Boyd right now, until A.J. Green comes back, the only weapon they can rely on. So I think he's going to have a fairly good year. Nick Chubb, over-under on rushing yards, 1,175. I feel like this is a very easy answer, but I'll get it from you guys anyways. Dennis.
Over.
Matt.
Slight over.
Slight over?
He might have that in the first 12 weeks.
12 weeks? I say the first 6 weeks, but all right. John, what do you say?
I say Chubb is going to be under.
Oh, my goodness. Cleveland Brown haters on this podcast. It's an easy over for me. Just joking about the 6 games, but I do think he's going to have a phenomenal year. Kareem Hunt does not worry me one bit. Lamar Jackson rushing totals, over under 750 rushing yards this year.
Boy, that's a good one. That's what, 60 yards a game?
Yes,
55 yards a game?
I was told there would be no math, so I'm not 100% sure. Just under 50 yards a game, 46.
I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to take the over as well.
I'm going to take the under. Apparently, he can pass now. So
I've heard. I haven't seen that, but I have heard that. I'm going to take the massive over here. I think he's going to be. I think he's actually going to push for 1,000 yards rushing this year. I think he's going to have a Michael Vick type season. OBJ receiving yards, 1,285, over or under.
I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to take the under as well. Too many weapons.
Matt just stole my my too many weapons comment. It's the under.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you guys, however. I own OBJ in too many leagues. We're going over, baby. He's going to win the MVP this year. Juju, over or under 1,335 receiving yards.
Taking the over.
All right, I like it, Dennis. Matt.
Wow. That's right. John said OBJ, or that Juju isn't Antonio Brown. He's right. He's better. I'm taking the over.
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot. John, tell us why you hate Juju Smith-Schuster so badly. By the way, Juju, another fan of the podcast, so he does listen. Tell us why you hate him.
Because he's not as good as Antonio Brown. I mean, he's another guy. You'll see it this year.
But he doesn't have to be as good as Antonio Brown with lesser competition for targets.
I think that when he gets double teamed all season, he's not gonna. We'll just wait and see. I'm taking the under.
I'm taking the easy over as well. I love me some Juju. Moving on to the AFC South. The Colts. Okay, so this is the interesting one. This is the one that I did not change because I wanted you guys to look at it. So with Andrew Luck, I obviously did these before he announced his retirement. With Andrew Luck, the Colts were being given 9.5 games. Once Luck announced his retirement, it dropped to 6 games. So, your guys' thoughts on the Colts winning just 6 games with Jacoby Brissett?
I'm taking the over.
I like it.
Okay. I'll take a slight over.
Okay.
I'll take the under. You'll find out here in a couple teams.
Gotcha. I'm taking the over as well. I'm going to go ahead and call it now. I think the Colts still make the playoffs. I like Jacoby Brissett. I think he honestly finishes as the top 15 quarterback for fantasy as well this year. The Houston Texans.
I don't think he finishes top 15. I mean, he's a career 60% completion guy through college and the NFL.
Yeah.
And so he's got a long way to go to get up there. So I think he'll always struggle with efficiency, but that doesn't mean he can't be good and the team can't be good.
Well, the one thing I'll say, and why I have him top 15 is, and obviously you guys can disagree with me if you want, but the one thing with quarterbacks nowadays is if you can run the ball, it immediately increases your fantasy value. I know you are not big on Kyler Murray, but look at Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. Andrew Luck was able to run the ball when he needed to, and that's where he actually got a decent amount of his fantasy points. Obviously, throwing 39 touchdowns helps as well, and I can't remember exactly how many yards he threw last year, but it was a ton. While I agree with you, Jacoby Brissett likely is going to continue to be that 60% percentage completion guy right there. He can run the ball, and he's quicker than Andrew Luck. I think that he will actually get a decent amount of rushing yards and possibly some rushing touchdowns that will jump him up there into the top 15. The Houston Texans at 8.5 wins. Over or under?
Boy, they didn't do much to address their offensive line either, and their defense isn't getting any younger.
2 rookies starting on the offensive line and no Clowney as of right now.
But they do have DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson.
That is very true.
What was it, 10? I'm going to take the under.
8.5, sorry.
Oh, 8.5?
Yeah.
Ooh, 8.5.
Yes, it's a tough one.
Oh, boy, that's a push.
Well, they can't get half a win, so you can't really push.
Sure they can.
It'll happen this
Cleveland
year.
did last year.
That's true. I guess it depends on if you consider it's half a win.
I'm going to take the under. I think
right.
they're going to go 8-8.
I'll take the over.
John.
I'm all aboard that 8-8 train, so we're going to take the under.
All right. I am going to take the under as well. I think that I have a feeling from what John said earlier, we both have the same team winning this division. So the Tennessee Titans with 8 wins.
I'm going to take the under there.
I am also taking the under.
We can just say under and move on.
Well, I don't know. The Tennessee Titans almost made the playoffs last year. Had they beaten the Colts in Week 17, they're in the playoffs. Just throwing that out there. I'm still going to take the under. But, I don't know. I don't think Tennessee's going to be as bad as everybody thinks they are. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
7-9 would be under, and that's not a horrible record. It's just
that is
reflective
true.
of who they might be.
That is true. Okay, I will give you that. The Jacksonville Jaguars, 7.5. This one just completely stunned me, but 7.5 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dennis.
Oh, boy, they need their wide receiver core to really gel. I'm big on Dede. Leonard's looked good this year. 7.5. I'm going to take the under. I think they win 7.
I'm going to take the over. I think they'll compete up near the division title, 9-10 wins.
I'm more bullish than Matt is. I've got him 12-4.
Very nice.
So definitely over.
I've got them over as well.
You like that BDE, do you?
I like all of a sudden Leonard Fournette knows how to catch passes.
Are we going to find out in a couple weeks that you guys are taking kickbacks from Shad Khan?
Yeah.
I hope
no. You're not going to find out.
I'll let you know when I retire from this podcast. That's exactly what's happening. Some of the player props for the AFC South. Deshaun Watson, over, under on passing yards, 4,075.
I'm going to take the over. I think they're going to have to pass.
I'm also taking the over.
I'm going to take the under. I don't think that he's going to stay standing up long enough to get that.
I am going to take the over just simply because I'm hoping with the shares of Will Fuller I've picked up this year that he stays healthy, and if he does, that means Deshaun Watson will likely get a lot of yak yards from him. Marcus Mariota, over-under on passing yards, 3,025.
Under.
Yeah, I already knew you were going to say that. I had the under already written on there. Matt?
Over.
Ooh, okay. John?
Not a lot over, just over.
He's going to have to get him in the first week.
Yeah, I've got him as under. I don't know, Mariota.
I'm going to take the under because of what Dennis was just alluding to there. With as good as Ryan Tannehill has looked, I would not be surprised if Tannehill starts at some point in time this year. That's the only reason I'm taking the under on Mariota. I feel like this one's going to be fairly easy answer for me and John, possibly even Matt since he has the Jaguars winning a bunch of games. But over-under on passing yards for Nick, Old St. Nick, 3,825 yards.
Yeah, I can't buy that. I think he can push for that, but I think that Marone's play style. I think Marone is he'll have the same conflict with DiFilippo that Mike Zimmer did. He's gonna want to pull things in and pound Leonard Fournette, and so I'm gonna go under. I think he'll be close. I think that's right around where he'll be, but I'm going the under.
I don't know what's been more hurtful to Dolphins fans on this podcast, the fact we all picked them in the win total under, or the fact that you two guys, John and Matt, think that Ryan Tannehill's a real NFL quarterback after the last 5 years. But for this question, I'm going to go slight under for Foles.
I don't think, for the record, that Ryan Tannehill is a legitimate NFL quarterback. I just don't think that Marcus Mariota is either.
Yeah, I knew exactly where you were going.
Yeah, so Foles, way over.
I'm taking the over as well, and on Tannehill, I think Tannehill's better than he's ever gotten credit for. He's had like a million different head coaches and offensive coordinators, and a non-salt-smelling Adam Gase in Miami. He's gone crazy in his New York Jets days. Had he been like that in Miami, I think Tannehill would have actually done something. Derrick Henry, rushing yards, 1,210, over or under?
I'm taking the under.
I'm taking the under, too. Not a Henry believer in the least.
Unless he has it in 3 weeks, he's not going to get it. I'm going to take the under.
Yeah, I'm right there with with all you guys. We all know how much I hate Derrick Henry, almost as much as I hate the Dallas Cowboys. Marlon Mack, rushing yards, 1,025.
Taking the over.
Yeah, I knew that was coming, too. It's Dennis's guy,
I'm
right there with Carlos
under.
Hyde.
Oh, this one's tough for me. I'm going to go ahead and say over.
I'm taking the under. That's not even a question. DeAndre Hopkins, receiving yards, 1,435 yards.
I'm going to take the over. I think they have to. They're going to have to throw the ball. And Hopkins is Hopkins. Will Fuller will take some, but I think Kiki Kuti is way overblown. It's DeAndre Hopkins. I'm taking the over.
I'm also taking the over because just when Dennis mentioned their names, both Fuller and Kuti got injured again.
How dare you! I need Will Fuller to be good this year. Don't put that juju on me. John.
I just would like to point out that you said don't put that juju on you. Like, juju is a bad thing most of the time when we say it.
Yes.
Back to Hopkins. I say the under, but not by much.
But Juju Smith-Schuster is a good thing because he is a phenomenal wide receiver, and I will take the over on Hopkins. He's just a flat-out baller. All right, so that is going to do it for our AFC prop bets due to This episode taking a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. We're going to split the AFC and the NFC. However, we're going to let Dennis, John, and Matt get out of here really quick, and we'll do the jersey giveaway, and then check back in a couple days for all the NFC prop bets, along with some MVP and coaching prop bets as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today on this kind of Las Vegas-centric episode. I appreciate it. Before we cut out of here, Matt, where can we find you again on Twitter, and what do you have coming out with the FLA blog?
I'm at Nighthawk7734 on Twitter, and we're wrapping up our preview series this week, but on Saturday and Sunday, you can get a look at who our writers think are going to be the award winners this year, and Sunday is our annual picks for playoff and Super Bowl, which is always a good time come January to look back and see just how far off we all were.
John, let everybody know where they can find you again on Twitter and what you have coming through the FLA pipes.
So I am iHeart Caravans pretty much everywhere. Medium, Twitter, Fantasy Life app, Instagram. Come check me out. And I should have a 49ers preview dropping this
Thursday.
week. Yeah. And then I'm going to get a news or noise put together and hoping for Wednesday for that. And there'll be Wednesday going forward.
All right, and then obviously last but not least, Dennis, let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter and what you've got working with the Devi Nerds, my goodness, Dynasty Nerds.
I am at culture_coach on Twitter. Feel free to reach out, shoot me a message. I'll be happy to answer any question you have. Getting ready to pump out Matt's top 5 Devi quarterbacks. That article will be coming out tomorrow.
It's a great read.
Doc Mitchell's injury recap from the weekend, that'll be out tomorrow. He's not that kind of doctor, but he writes that column. Looking forward to Jared Wackerly's college football preview article coming out every Friday. Got lots of good things in the works over at Dynasty Nerds.
I agree. Love Jared's first article, man. Dude's going to kill it for us. And that right there will do it. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. And look forward to talking to you guys again here soon in the future. NFL season is almost upon us.
Thanks for having me.
Can't wait.
All right, but before I jump out of here, we have to do the Saquon Barkley signed jersey giveaway. So again, thank you so much for all of you that did the rate and reviews and DM'd me with them. We really appreciate that. It's continuing to help us grow as a podcast, and in return, we want to return the favor to you guys by letting you guys get some free stuff. So we have the Saquon Barkley jersey again. If you guys do not win this one, don't fret. Any of you that entered, I have your names or your Twitter handles written down with a number that I sent to you in your inbox. Those numbers will be saved. I will be doing a monthly jersey giveaway every month for the entire NFL season, so you will not have to re-enter. You will continue to stay in there. Hopefully you guys will win it. We are doing the random number now, so we had 22 people enter into this one. So again, thank you so much to all of you who jumped in there and did the rates and reviews. So I am running the machine now, and our winner is going to be number 41. All right, so number 41, let me pull it up here, is at EMT_Ashley. Congratulations, you have won yourself a signed Penn State Saquon Barkley jersey. Again, thank you so much for the rate and review, and again, thank you so much to all of you who rated and reviewed the podcast. It really does mean a lot to us. Stay tuned. Next month, actually, because I got a little 2-for-1 deal, I will be doing a college football jersey giveaway and an NFL jersey giveaway as well. So we will be doing 2 giveaways next month again. Any of you who entered or shot me a screenshot of your rate and review, you are still entered. You will all get a chance to win that and that. Ashley, congratulations so much on winning the Saquon Barkley jersey. However, you are now out of the running for everything else. I don't want to continue to allow the same people to win stuff. So you get the Saquon Barkley jersey and have been removed from the list. So thank you so much to all of you guys once again for doing that, and be on the lookout in a month for the next giveaway.
Prepare for glory! I don't know if you got your popcorn ready. Do you got your popcorn ready? I came out the womb, I was ready. And he's hit the end zone for an unbelievable touchdown.
I would be honored if you played football for this team.
Throw it up above his head. They can't jump with me. Golly! Over the tackle at the 40-yard line. Who make a play? I can. Who can make a play? I can.
Let's consider the secret life of the innermost nesting doll. Living most of her life in the dark, inside the other nesting dolls, she has plenty of time to think, if she could. Sadly, she has no brain. However, when an innermost nesting doll hears that Geico not only saves people money, but also has been providing great service for over 75 years, she thinks it's obvious you should switch. Because yes, switching to Geico is a no-brainer. Pity the innermost nesting doll and her lot in life.
Now's the time to travel and be with the people you care about the most. And at Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express, we're helping you be there for less. Save at least 25% at thousands of hotels worldwide if you book by September 24th. You won't want this moment to pass you by. So book today at HolidayInn.com. Terms and conditions apply.